Hello, welcome to Stephanie's Threads. I am Stephanie. This is my YouTube channel where I share my love of handmade textiles, my knitting, my crochet, my quilting, my sewing, all things handmade. I am joining you today from my studio in Western Colorado on a beautiful sunny day. And I thought today I would bring out all of my cheerful knits, as a lot of the United States and Canada are in the throes of winter, and I thought it would be nice to have something very cheerful. I have several finished objects to share with you and a whip, and I also want to share how I craft my stuffies. So I will get to that in just a moment, but I'm going to go ahead and start with my finished objects. I have been doing some gift knitting for some people in my life very dear to me. And the first one is a hat. It's for my youngest goddaughter. It was brought to my attention recently that I have not made her a hat in quite some time, and she was wanting one. So I went off. I didn't have anything in my stash, so this is a rare instance where I did have to purchase yarn. And I ordered it online, and when it came, I wanted to get a color for her. She has she has maybe brownish hair and very beautiful green eyes. And she's a youngster, like a teenager. She's just going into teenagehood. So, you know, the situation with colors and styles and things are particular. So I ordered a color which I felt would be a little different than what I typically do for her. And when it came, I was a smidge disappointed. It is a Cascade 220 yarn, worsted, and no, this one actually is DK. And I got it in the color copper, and this is how it came. That's a pretty true representation, which it's not that it's a bad color, but it's a smidge more orange than I had hoped. So what I thought is I would go ahead and look in my stash and see if there was an interesting mohair that I could pair with it. And I came up with a color. This is what I found. This is a mohair from Primrose Yarn Company. I love her yarn. And the color is called Pucker Up. So when I put them together, because there's a little bit, if you can see, there's a little bit of the copper in there. And I thought that that might be an interesting pairing. The pattern that I wanted to use for her is called Marrow, the Marrow hat, which is a pattern by Victoria Chaplina. And it is a $4, US pattern. I actually received it as a gift, which I so appreciated. And so I knit it on a US 4 3.5 millimeter, and I made the teen size. And here you go. I'm very pleased with it. I do prefer to make hats with a double brim. I like it to be quite warm over the ears. And you can see the decreases are very pretty, very interesting. But I'm very pleased with the way that the yarn blended. So I think that that worked out well. This does not match what I'm wearing, but I want you to see it on. So there you go. I like it so much that I'm actually looking in my own stash to see if I can find yarn that I can use to make it for myself. That's how much I like it. And actually, I want to make it to match this sweater. So I'm hoping I have a yellow in my stash that I can use. But this is a great pattern, very easy to knit. It has an interesting construction. I don't want to talk about it too much because it is a paid for pattern. But if you look, you can see there's a variation between the way that you knit the rib and the way that you knit the balance of the hat. So that when you fold it out, it's congruous. I'm sure you can see that. So there you go. That's my first finished object, soon to be off on its way, its new home. And hopefully she will approve of the color. She's usually not fussy about things I make for her, but you know, I want to honor her personal style as she's emerging into it. The second whip that I have is another hat. Some very dear friends of mine just did something very special for me, and I wanted to knit them hats to say thank you. So this is another Cascade 220 yarn in the color burnt orange, and this time I use the pattern called Hill 60, which I have knit before. It's for a gentleman, and it's a great kind of watch cap-esque pattern. This is a free pattern. The Hill 60 is a free pattern. I knit this one on a US 7. I'm sorry. The pattern calls for a US 7. I knit it on a US 5 to get gauge. So this is it. I always like to show the decreases. So you can see it's very interesting. I'll go ahead and pop this one on too. You know, when you're knitting hats, I have a big head. And so when you're knitting hats for men, you sometimes have to be concerned that you get their circumference right. So this one has a lot of give to it. I think it's a great color. I really quite like it. I don't know that I would wear this in my wardrobe, but I think it will be perfect for him. So there you go. That is the Hill 60 hat, again, knit in Cascade 220 in the color burnt orange. And I knit it on a US 5. Also, just to point out, it also has the double brim, so it's nice and warm. The other finished object that I have, I'm going to hold off on talking about because I want to talk about my whip first and get that out of the way. This is one of the project bags that I made. Isn't that pretty? Such beautiful fabric. It's just a very large project bag with a very pretty, of course, my favorite pink inside with a nice big pocket. But the other whip I have is for the gentleman that I made the hat for, his wife. And I wanted to make her something really soft and just very nice feeling. So I found a pattern called the Leaolea hat. That is a pattern by Olga Beckman, $6.29 US, and it's an Aran weight hat. So I am knitting this on a US 7 in a size medium. I'm also using a Cascade 220 yarn in the color, it's a straight up white. But what I did, I cast it on the first time and I wasn't too pleased with the squishy factor. So I went into my stash and I found a mohair that I had. The mohair is just a Valley yarn mohair. And when I put those together, I was very happy with the squishy factor. So you can see hopefully that that has a little bit of the fluff, a little bit of the fuzz. And I'm working on the brim right now. I put a picture up of the hat so you can see it. So next time we're on, I'll show you what that looks like finished. Really, really pretty feminine knit on this one. So that's what I have on the go. And I should also tell you, because I always get questions about what I'm wearing. This is the Throwover sweater. It is a pattern by Andrea Mowry. It's a $9 US pattern. I'm sure, as I've told you before, I get my Andrea patterns usually when she offers a discount, in one of her sales, probably one of her birthday sales. So I knit this in, there's a few different colors as you can see, but the lime, this is a Stonehenge fiber mill shepherd's wool worsted. By the way, a very lovely, inexpensive yarn. So if you have a chance to pick this up, I think you'll be very happy with it. It doesn't pill, it wears beautifully, and it's a very economical yarn, but a beautiful, beautiful yarn. So Stonehenge fiber mill shepherd's wool worsted. The green is called lime green, and then there's a color in here which is cantaloupe. So I can probably show that to you better on the sleeve. You can see that color cantaloupe. Then I used some other stash yarn that I had. I call this lapis, but this is a Luna Gray, who's a wonderful indie dyer here in Colorado, and she named her yarn company after her pups, which I just love. But this is the color Zeta, and then the cream color is just a remnant of Barrett Wool Company worsted picket fence. I knit this on, the main body is knit on a US size 8, 5.0 millimeter needle. I did knit the color work, as I've shared with you. A common tip for knitting color work to make sure you get your floats right is to go up a needle size. So I did do that. I used a size 9 for my needlework, and I used a size 6 for the ribbing. This is a phenomenal, phenomenal sweater pattern. I'll stand up so you can see it. It fits beautifully. I've made 2 of these actually, but this one is just extremely cheerful. So I thought it would be fun to wear this today. So that is my throwover. What's on my form is another very bright sweater that I absolutely love. I love it so much I've pulled yarn to make another one. This is called All the Love. It's a pattern by Joji Locatelli, $6.50 US. I knit this on using Malabrigo Silky Merino in the color Pollen. I knit the ribbing on a size 4 and the body on a size 5. So a very, very pretty pattern. I'm not sure if you'd be able to see it, but there's a lace work on both sides that basically goes in columns down the sweater. So it's really pretty, but very, very straightforward to knit. And I've shared with you before, I love Joji's patterns. I understand them. They make perfect sense to me, and I'm able to knit them with great ease. So those are the 2, excuse me, these are the 2 sweaters that I am wearing today. I am going to switch camera angles and talk to you about stuffies. If you are a knitter and you have children in your life, you have likely been called upon or had the desire to create stuffies to give as gifts. I'm going to insert a couple pictures of things I've made. I've made Hedwig the Owl from the Harry Potter series. I've made giraffes, I've made frogs, and of course I've made little bears for the young ones to hold on to when they sleep. I have also made adult stuffies. This is Baby Yoda, which is a pattern I found on Ravelry. I'm nearly positive this is a free pattern. I'll link it below if it is, or no matter what it is, I'll put it below for you. But I have made little baby, I have one, and we have big Star Wars fans in my life. So I have made this probably 4 or 5 times and gifted it to different gentlemen that I know who enjoy having it propped up in their different offices or home environments. It's great fun. But what I'm working on today is another adult stuffy, which has taken the knitting world by storm. And that is an emotional support chicken. These chickens were born out of the brain of the gal that owns the knitting tree in Los Angeles. I will be sure to link her information below. It's a fun story. It's been featured on CBS News because there have been thousands of emotional support chickens made. And the intent behind the emotional support chicken is it's an adult stuffy that you can hug. So it's literally intent. This one's not stuffed yet. I'm going to show you that today. But you can hug it and it brings you comfort. So there are many, many variations. The gal who first created it had some very clever names. She created like Jennifer Lopez. There's one for Dolly Parton. But she essentially took interesting yarn and kind of matched it to the personality of the celebrity and created it. I have made, oh gosh, I think I've made 12 or 15 of these. I'm making a new set for a wonderful person in my life who is newly pregnant. And she and her husband are very dear to me. And she was at my friend Megan's house. You've heard me talk about Megan many times. And Erin was holding the stuffy and she said, I can't stop hugging it. So of course I was like, well, I have to make her one immediately. So the pattern exists for the emotional support chicken, and a newer one exists for an emotional support chickie. And she also has one for an emotional support ducky, which I have not made yet, although I do have that pattern. So what I wanted to share with you is something that I do to stuff them. So I'm going to put this down for just a second. You can see this one is, his little eyes are in. I'm not sure if this is a boy or a girl yet. So but the little eyes are in, the hood is in, and the opening is in for the stuffing to go in. So the majority of people, when you're making stuffies, tend to use polyfill. This is stuff that's available at most craft stores, even I think Walmart and things like that have them. The thing for me is, number one, I don't love the polyester fabric, or I should show it to you so you know what I'm speaking of. This stuff, it's like fluffy polyester remnants, things like that. I'm not crazy about that. Also, I like to use what I have rather than buying new things, and I sew. So if you are a sewer, you know you have scraps, and this is my current bag of scraps. You can see it's full to the brim. I did a lot of sewing over the summer. I made like a new wardrobe for myself because of my weight loss. So between sewing and quilting, you accumulate a ton of scraps, and always are looking for, how can I use these scraps up? Because putting them in the trash kind of defeats the purpose, in my point of view, and most of making a handmade garment, or trying to leave a lower footprint on the planet. So I fill my stuffies with fabric scraps. It's a little bit of a process to do that, because you cannot take something this big and stick it in a stuffy. You need a smaller pieces of fabric to make sure that the bulk of your stuffy is correct. So what I do is I cut everything up. I'm going to show you the box that I'm working on. And you can see these are very small scraps. Maybe an inch or an inch and a half, definitely not more than 2 inches for your scraps, so that you can get a good bulk when you are putting it inside your stuffy. What happens as a result of using the fabric scraps is your stuffy, so in this case, the chickens, are bulkier, they're meatier, they weigh more, and they just have a different huggable factor that works for me. Please know there's nothing wrong with using polyfill if that's what your choice is. This is just an alternate option to suggest to you in case you are a person who's also struggling to work with scraps. I do want you to know I did try to take, if you knit, you have yarn scraps, like the tail end of a ball or something that you don't really have enough of a quantity to use. I did not find that it worked well. So I'm very curious if you have tried to stuff anything with those scraps. If you got it to work, I'd love to know any tips or tricks that you might have, because it's something I've considered but just couldn't make work. So I'm going to go ahead and show you a little bit about how I cut these down and create the scraps, and then I will stuff it, but then come back to you. I'm not going to make you watch me cut everything and stuff it, because it's going to take a bit. So for myself, what you can't see beneath me is a cutting mat. I do one of two things. I either use my rotary cutter, which I have because I sew and I quilt, or I just use a straight up pair of scissors. I often end up with the scissors because they're just a little bit faster. But what I do is, first of all, a couple things. When you're knitting this, you want to be sure it's tight enough so that you don't really see anything popping through it. So you do want to be sure about that. However, even for myself, I tend to, and you'll see from this, I tend to pick colors which, if they did peep out, won't obstruct or look funny with the chicken or the stuffy. So in this situation, as an example, I would not choose to put the dark brown in there. I would use that for a different project. What I did is I went through my fabric scraps, and because I have two of these, I have this one and I have this one to stuff. And because they have a lot of lighter color in their body, I am choosing to use more neutral or light colored scraps. So what I will do, and I do keep a box or a bag. I didn't want to use a bag today because I don't want that crinkling to bother you. But what you do is you just grab a piece of your fabric and you cut small pieces of it so that you are dealing with 1 to 2 inch. You can even see my scissors are a little dull from this process. But anyway, what you're doing is you're cutting these into smaller pieces and they're just landing in a box. I need to grab another pair of scissors because these are just, I've dulled them at this point. But anyway, you've got these. And the other thing I have found I need to do, and by the way, it takes a lot of scraps. So just as an example, this is a big pile of scraps. And my guess is I will use all of it and what's in the box to fill just one of these. So it's a fantastic user of your scraps. But what I do is I put it in the box and then I end up shaking it because I want air to get in between all the pieces of fabric that can become clumped together. That way, when I put them inside of the chicken, the body is nice and plump. So I'm going to go about cutting some of this and I will come back to you once I am in the process of stuffing so that you can see what that looks like. I changed the angle of the camera so you could see what I was doing. These strings, by the way, are here because I will use them to sew this up once I am done. But you can see my chicken and you can see my box of scraps. And really, the process is as simple as taking the opening of your chicken, and I have fluffed these. So I'm going to go ahead and basically begin inserting scoops, my hand scoops of the fabric scraps right into the body, the cavity of my chicken. I use a lot because I want my chicken to be meaty. So you can see this goes, it takes a surprising amount to get this little baby stuffed. And as I am doing this, I am pushing the scraps back into the different points of the little baby's body. You can see I'm doing it so he is plump. He, she. Haven't decided yet. So hopefully you can see there, we're still not even all the way through, and my box is almost empty. So I am probably going to have to go ahead and by the way, I cut up all of the scraps in the batch that I showed you a few moments ago. So again, I just want to show you, I'm pushing it back, but you can see it's still very, you're not seeing the fabric come through the stitches. And you can see the little body is taking shape. But as I suspected, I do not think I have enough scraps, so I'm going to have to cut some more, which is great because I do love using my scraps. Let me go ahead and just pour this in. It's a process. I find it very enjoyable. Now you can see this bottom. So you can, if you want to, you can make it flat because I do like for them to stand up. Really what I'm trying to say is you can determine the level of stuffedness to your heart's content. Some people might take this at this point and just zhuzh things around and let it be that. For me, too thin. So I'm going to go ahead and cut some more and come back. Here you go. Here's our finished little emotional support chicken and her little baby. This is going to be a mother-daughter pair that's going to Erin. I do want to point out, you'll notice on the adult size, I went ahead and used safety eyes. I feel very comfortable with that because this is for an adult. However, the baby is going to be for a child. So you'll notice I went ahead and just embroidered the eyes on that, which was just 2 strands of acrylic black yarn. And I went ahead and popped their little eyes in. So what I can share with you is that I think the emotional support chicken is a brilliant, brilliant comfort gift for if you knit. And by the way, I should have said there's a crochet version of this pattern as well. So if you're somebody that crochets, she's got you covered. I just think this is literally the foolproof gift. If you knit and you like to gift things. I have made this for children, for teenagers, for adults, male and female, and invariably they love them. I was surprised when I gifted it to the first male in my life. I didn't know if, I kind of did it almost as a little joke, but he immediately latched onto it and just loved it. So the snuggle factor, the comfort factor is real with these. And if you do enjoy gifting something and you're not sure what to give someone, especially if you know someone's home decor, you can make this. If you do watch Needles at the Ready, Kevin and Ray made them. They said they sleep with them every single night. So they're just a hugely loving gift to give. And I hope that by showing you how you could do an alternate stuffing, meaning to use up your fabric scraps, that you could also do this economically, especially if you're somebody that does have a lot of scraps. I think they're so cute. So that is everything for today. Until we meet again, I wish you comfort. I wish you smooth stitches and so much peace.